For those of you who aren't aware, mechanics aren't paid by how long a job takes them to do. They're paid by how long.
So 100%, he's correct. Mechanics get paid what is called a flat rate system. So like he's using that video, the engine, they're getting 15 hours, whether that person does it in 6 hours or like you said, in 3 days. But here's the issue though. You know how many times a mechanic, when they're starting out, is going to do a job that says 15 hours in 6? 0% chance. The thing is, every time you do something, you're learning how to do it for the first time. So unless you do that engine, 5 times a week, you're not going to be doing that 5 hours. And also, that's not a great example to use because, again, just to get to that engine job, the amount of stuff you have to crawl through, go through, just to get done before you get to that. And then all it takes is one bad job, and all of a sudden you made $0 because you made 15 hours, you did it in 6, but then you have a diagnosis job you took 7 hours to do, and they're only going to give you 3 for it. So then all of a sudden you lost 4 hours. So then it's, it just equals out at the end of the day. Then you have to have your own tools. So you have to supply your own tools. So before you make any money, you have to have your own tools, all that kind of stuff. Again, I get it. You don't have to start out with a ton of tools, but you have to buy them. Right here, again, these are 2 cheap scan tools. Cheap. I can't stress that enough. This is as cheap as you're going to get them. This is like $600-$700 when I bought it. This was $600. I just bought it. $1,200 right here just in scan tools, just to check a check engine light to make sure everything's all good to go, see what's wrong with it. So again, yes, everything costs money. It costs money to make money. I get that. But when the dealership is charging the customer $200 an hour for every single tech, the last place I worked at, Audi, had 30 techs. Their shop hour was $210 an hour. So they're charging that to everyone, every single tech, and their highest paid tech was making $32 an hour. I was just dumbfounded because it came from a Chevy dealership where our top tech was making well over $50 an hour flat rate, and we were only charging $154. So I was all confused. I was like, how does this work? I was like, and I get it, business has overhead and all that kind of stuff. But again, when you have 30 techs, each one turning $200 an hour, just add it up. They're making a ton of money. But again, I get this. The area I live in is super expensive, so you have to. But again, don't think the mechanic is ripping you off. It's usually the shop. And again, the mechanic is just trying to make a living. They're just trying to make some bread. They're just trying to eat. They're just trying to feed themselves, pay for the tools. Because again, what I just showed you here is $1,400, $1,200 in tools right here, let alone your box, your tools, your ratchet, your wrenches, all that kind of stuff. When you go to your desk job, you don't have to buy a dang thing. You can say, oh, well, I had to go to school. That's great. You can get grants, you can get scholarships, you can get all sorts of stuff where you can go through college. I actually did a program, an automotive program, that was sponsored by my first dealership, absolutely free of charge. So I got 32 college credit hours for free. So there's so many ways to do college for free. You're not getting free tools. They're not giving that stuff away. That's not free. Also, I was at some point I was wondering if they can get shops to start helping buy the tools, but they're not going to do that. I think in California, if they do that, then they can pay you minimum wage, and that's just sounds crazy to me. So yeah, that's why mechanics. That's how they get paid, and that's one of the. I think it's an inefficiency. They're just taking advantage of the mechanic, but that's just me.